I'm Dr. Chandra Foote. I'm Dean of the College of Education, and I think there were a couple Canadians on here, that's Faculty of Education at Niagara University. We want to welcome everybody, and we're going to talk to you tonight a little bit about the getting hired process and how Niagara University supports our teacher education students in getting their jobs, because I think one of the first things you think about when you go into this is what's it going to look like in the end? Am I going to have a job? And especially in an economy like the one we're living in, you want to make sure that there is the positive result that you get at the end. So we're going to emphasize that piece of it today, but I did want to talk to you a few minutes about just general comments about our programs. Some of you are interested in coming in as future freshmen. I think some of you are perhaps transfer students, and some of you are looking at our graduate teacher education program. But I wanted to, if we don't mind, actually, Em, will you introduce yourself, and then I'm just going to go through and we'll do a quick introduction of everybody.
Absolutely. So hi, everybody. My name is Emily Olzak. I'm an admissions advisor here on campus. I'm actually very excited about this event tonight. It's something out of the ordinary. And even for myself, I'm ready to learn more about why NU teachers do get hired. Before we get started and introduce everybody, if you could, in the chat box, put your name and even the area of education that you're planning on studying, just so we can get a background and see, what students and where their kind of focus is.
And maybe where you're from too, if you don't.
Oh yeah, put your high school and where you're from. That would be great. So
unless you're a grad student, but you could just put your town.
Yeah, your date of birth, your
your social
your sun sign. No, I'm kidding. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, please feel free throughout the night after we're discussing things. Please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat box as things pop up. Anything, whether it's about education, student teaching, Office of Admissions, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
How about you, Tammy? Who are you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tammy Bruno. I'm the Assistant Dean in the College of Education. What that really means is I'm like the school counselor for the college. So I welcome everyone in. I make sure that you're getting what you need while you're with us. And then I ensure you do everything you need to do for graduation. So I'm here if you need me. I'm happy to discuss the program with you outside of this event tonight. I see actually maybe one of our students who just enrolled is on here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I see a couple names that I think I recognize. So I put my contact information in the chat box. So feel free to reach out, and it's great not seeing all of you, but it's great for all of you to see me. So you can put a face with the name.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay. And next on my order of operations here is Sarah. Sarah, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I just graduated from Niagara in May, and I currently have a teaching job as a third grade teacher at Orchard Park. So if you're from Buffalo, it's about 20 minutes south. And it's actually, I'm teaching at the same school I went to as an elementary kid. Oh, and I did birth through 6 childhood and special ed with a minor in American Sign Language.
Thanks, Sarah. Chris.
Hello, or as I normally say, hola. My name is Chris Rogers, and I am a Spanish teacher at Mount Pleasant Middle School and Schenectady High School in Schenectady, New York. I graduated in May from Niagara University with a degree in Spanish education, 5 through 12, with a minor in Latin American Studies. And I'm so glad to talk to all of you awesome future teachers about the amazing program that Niagara has to offer.
Awesome, thanks. And Stephanie.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Morris and I'm the Director of Career Services. I'm having some technical issues, so I'm trying to get on my laptop here at some point, but I'm using my phone for this for now. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about ways in which we support our education students at Niagara University, specifically through an event that we host, which is Teacher Recruitment Days, and then what our connections look like with regards to the hiring districts, both local as well as across the United States, as well as in Ontario, and also some of our alumni connections as well.
Thanks a lot. Now, I'm thinking from what I see in the chat that everyone is interested in our undergraduate programs. So if anybody's interested in grad, you can either put a thumbs up or make a comment in the chat box. I don't want to talk about programs that you're not exploring. Okay, Tammy, you can watch the chat box. I'm going to share something. All right, and can you let me share? Thanks. Okay. Oh, I'm the host now. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to share just a quick PowerPoint. I think there's only about 2 or 3 slides here. Let's see here, slideshow from the current slide. So I'm not sure how many of you have had an opportunity to come to Niagara University's campus. We have a little bit of snow on the ground, but not too much right now. So this picture doesn't show, it's not live, let's just say that. But what you see in the picture is actually the academic complex, which is the home of the College of Education at Niagara University. Down in the bottom left, that little 1-story wing is our Family Literacy Center. So the College of Education has a Family Literacy Center where we bring in children from the local school districts who've been identified by their teachers as having some challenges in reading, and our students who are literacy minor in their undergrad or in our graduate literacy instruction can do some diagnosis and intervention with the children here on campus. We have education classes on the classrooms on the first floor, and a Tim Hortons right in our own building. And on the second floor, we have some more classrooms, but they're also on the second floor is my office. And you met Tammy Bruno. We have a certification officer, a dedicated certification officer in my office. She helps with getting certified in New York State, in any other state, and in Canada, all over the place, and most countries in the world, I think she's certified people with. Across the hall from us on the second floor is our field experience office. One of the things you're going to hear me talk about is our field experiences and how they prepare you for jobs. But you don't have to go out and find your field experiences. Our office finds them for you. Make sure that you're partnered up with teachers who can be supportive of you, both in the US and in Ontario. And then on the third floor is our faculty offices. So although we are a medium-sized campus, we are a one-stop shop within the Faculty of Education here, which means you can come in and get everything you need right here in the building. One of the distinguishing features for the College of Ed, the Faculty of Ed at Niagara University, is that we start you as education majors in your freshman year. Your first semester here, you will take education courses and you will have field experiences in your very first semester and every semester along the way. That is unlike most of our partner institutions across the state. They may say, yes, you're an education major, but what they'll say is, oh, let's get all of your liberal arts courses out of the way before you start taking your education courses. Well, my feeling is that you don't want to get to your junior year and find out that you don't really like kids or teaching or anything like that, and then have to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life, because that's the way that you make bad teachers who obviously hate what they're doing. You probably all have seen them at one point, but I promise you we didn't create them, right, Tammy? That wasn't our job. So that's one of the distinguishing features. Niagara University has one of the highest four-year graduation rates in Western New York, public or private. And the College of Education at Niagara University has the highest four-year graduation rate at Niagara University. So what that means is you're going to finish in 4 years. So when I have students who are saying, oh, you know, I might be able to save a little bit of money if I went to Buffalo State or, you know, a community college and then moved over. What I tell them is, you know, if you're going to finish in 4 years and get the job that you want, right out of your program of study, then you're actually saving yourself money. If you have to stay on a couple of years longer to get the courses that you need, and that means that you're still paying tuition, and it also means that you're not making a salary. And so Tammy, she was humble in her comments that she's a glorified counselor. She makes sure you don't get to your senior year and oops, you forgot to take such and such. It doesn't happen here at Niagara. All of our graduates reported within 1 year. For the last 3 years, all of our graduates reported either being employed as educators or being in graduate school, and 97% of them report both, that they're in graduate school and working. So we know we're being successful there. We have very high pass rates on the state certification exams, and we have 4+1 and 4+2 graduate program opportunities. All of these things we're happy to speak with you more about. I know we're going to get into the getting hired part, so I don't want to take too much time up on this part. Let's see if I can click to the next slide here. Oh, there we go. So what majors do we have? We have early childhood and childhood education, which is primary junior for the Ontario folks, or you know what we used to call elementary, but it gets you certified from birth to grade 6. We have childhood and middle childhood opportunities, which is grades 1 to 9. And we try to make sure that all of our candidates leave with at least 2 certifications, if not more. We have middle childhood and adolescence education, grades 5 to 12, and that is for bio, chem, Spanish, French, business, English language arts, mathematics, and social studies. Did I forget anything? I think that was all of them. So we have adolescence education, which is grades 7 to 12, secondary. We have the option to get special education certification, grades 1 to 6, alongside childhood certification, grades 1 to 6. So you can be general and special education. Same thing goes for the adolescence level. You can get special education and 7 to 12 general education. And we have a program in teaching English to speakers of other languages, which a lot of people get confused. They kind of think it's supposed to be bilingual, and you have to be bilingual to do it. In fact, a TESOL classroom often has students, you know, you might have 8 or 9 students, all who speak 8 or 9 different languages, and none of them is Spanish. And your goal as a TESOL teacher is to help them continue to move along in the general ed curriculum and move to being able to learn in English in the general ed curriculum. I almost like to call them special ed teachers for language because they could be consultant teachers, they could be in a contained classroom of kids learning English as a new language. But it's an exciting field and a field in high demand. We've never had a student who didn't have a job before leaving in TESOL. We have a number of different minors, and I think Sarah said you were ASL, Deaf Studies minor. Our students like to distinguish themselves from others with their minors. It really sort of sets you apart from others, whether, you know, theater minor or, you know, a communications minor. And their minors are really saying to the school, it's either your minors or the clubs and the activities that you're involved in on campus. What are the extracurricular things that I might be interested in getting involved in here within the district or within the community? And so we have lots of options there. Tammy said she had put her contact information up in the chat. Mine's here, just my initials, C as in cat, J as in John, F as in Frank at niagara.edu. And one of the things you'll find is that we are extremely responsive. Please test our responsiveness. You're not going to go a day or so without having us respond to you. And if Tammy and I don't know the answer to a question, we will get you to the place where you need to go in order to get the answer. So without further ado, knowing who we are and what we have is a good place to start, but you're here to find out about getting the jobs at the end. Will I be successful? And Tammy's gonna run a panel. She's our Jim Fallon here, I guess. Go ahead, Tam.
All right, thanks, Dr. Foote. First, Dr. Foote, I'd like to tell you we do have one graduate student on from Lackawanna who's interested in secondary Spanish. So I did want to say that much of what Dr. Foote said about our elementary or our undergraduate programs would hold true for our master's programs as well. Is there anything you want to add, Dr. Foote, for the
well, the master's program is a 3-semester, it's an initial teacher education program. Students can come in with their bachelor's in almost anything, but if you want to be a Spanish teacher, I would suggest that your bachelor's was in Spanish, because you're going to need to have a lot of Spanish to be a Spanish teacher. But then they take 3 semesters, 2 semesters of coursework in education and a semester of student teaching to get their master's degree. Very similar courses to what the students are taking in education at the undergrad level, but it's just intensive in a short period of time. And that program can be started in any semester. So you could start in 2 weeks, January 28th, or you can start in May, or you can start in September. And then basically you can map that out with 3 semesters. Can't student teach in the summer because there's not schools the same as there are during the fall and the spring, but other than that, we can help you out. And I will type Sima's information if you want more.
I did. I put it in there.
Never mind. See, we work well together, Tammy. So go on with our panel. And what we're talking about in terms of getting hired works just the same for our grad students as our undergrads.
Wonderful. So I'm going to keep this really casual. We have 2, as you've met, we have 2 of our alumni who are out student teaching right now, and then we also have Stephanie Morris.
No, they're not out student teaching now. They're out working. They're living.
Sorry, everyone. I've been on these meetings all day. They wonderfully are out there working in the field, so they have a lot to share with us tonight. And then we have Stephanie Morris from our Career Services office. So what I'm planning on is kind of picking their brains a little bit first, so you can get some authentic experiences from them, and then we'll probably wrap up with Stephanie if that works. Is that okay? All right, so first of all, I'm going to start with Sarah because she's right next to me here. Sarah, I wanted to ask you first, do you think that preparing for 2 certifications at Niagara made you more marketable? A lot of our programs, as Dr. Foote mentioned, don't just prepare you for one area, you actually prepare for 2 certifications. So do you think that helped you, Sarah, when you went to get a job?
Yeah, so I actually prepared for 4 because I did the birth through two childhood, and then the special ed, and then the 1 to 6 childhood and 1 to 6 special ed. So what's really nice is even before I graduated in May, I already had 2 of my certifications done. So you get all the information you need in your undergrad classes, and the tests are fairly easy. I took everything once and I passed. I mean, I did study a little bit, but I do feel like Niagara prepares you with the information that you need. It's definitely doable, especially during student teaching or even during your senior year. You are able to take those tests, so that way, even before you graduate, you can be certified.
Great. And Dr. Foote, do you want to tell us a little bit about the support we provide for students regarding the certification exams and obtaining certification?
So each of our students has to complete at least, it's not just our students, every student in the state of New York has to complete at least 3 certification exams. They are sort of developmental in nature. One of them is the content specialty test. So if you're going to be a Spanish teacher, you have to know the Spanish content. If you're going to be an elementary teacher, you need to know literacy, mathematics, and then, you know, all of the liberal arts and sciences. English, you need to know the English kind of thing. And so we prepare our students to take the content specialty test after they've completed all or most of their content area work as part of their undergraduate program. And while they're taking their methods courses, because there's a little section on those content specialty tests about teaching that content to others. The other assessment that they take is the EAS, the Educating All Students test. And this has a lot of subparts. One of them's on cultural diversity. One of them's on linguistic diversity. One section's on students with special learning needs. There's a section on laws. The US and the Ontario laws are very, very similar, or the Canadian laws, in terms of special education. And the fifth part is on homeschool and community relationships. And we have had between a 98 and 100% pass rate on that exam over the years, because that's one of the areas that we really focus on. And we're really proud of the fact that you know, you might come in thinking I'm going to be a history teacher, I'm going to be a math teacher, but you go out knowing darn well that you're a teacher of children. I'm going out to teach children who may have these needs or those needs or these differences, and I know how to accommodate those. So that's a lot of the coursework that we emphasize. And then the last test that students have to take is the EdTPA, which is the Teacher Performance Assessment. It's different than the others. The others are mostly multiple choice tests. This one is a performance assessment, and you plan lessons during your student teaching your final semester. And you implement those lessons and you videotape those lessons and gather assessment data from those students, and you really have almost a portfolio of proof that you have made a difference and impacted student learning. And we prepared the students all the way along through their education coursework for that, but their professional seminar is the huge help for that program along the way. And you know, you may hear from programs about these hidden fees and different things like that within their programs. The only fees that Niagara University charges for courses are the fees that are associated with those state exams. Those exams, because they can be costly, if we fold them into your tuition, then you can use loans or scholarships or other things to help to pay and offset the costs of those. We don't want you to wait 2 or 3 years and take a bartending job or something like that to be able to take that test when you need it. So we identify when in the program you're going to be ready to take it, because you've just taken the coursework that you needed. And then Beverly Eiler, our certification officer, shows up in your class and hands you a voucher to say, take this test in the next 12 months. Here's the voucher that pays for it, because then you'll know that you're ready. So that's sort of how we help you.
All right, thanks, Dr. Foote. Now, Sarah and Chris, I know both pretty well, and I know both of you were very active on campus. I'm going to ask Chris to take this one. Chris, did your involvement on campus help you in obtaining a job? You know, you have lots of opportunities at Niagara to get involved. Did that make your job search a little bit easier, or you're landing a job?
I think so, because I remember I was applying for this school district in Prince George County, Maryland. And one of the things that they said to me was, we see that you were the president of your college Spanish club. If offered a job, would you be interested in being our culture club advisor? Which was nice, because it also came with a $500, you know, like bonus for being an advisor for the club. So having these different extracurricular experiences in your undergrad experience and putting that on your resume might also help you land a couple more bucks in your pocket, because, you know, student loans are real. But then it also like keeps that conversation going with future employers. So I would say yes, that it did help me in my interview process.
Great. Probably looked really good on your resume too, right? To have all of those activities listed. Mm-hmm. How about you, Sarah? Anything to add to that? I know you were very involved as well.
Yeah, even just like participating in like our teacher club on campus. They give you a lot of resources. I was president of the American Sign Language Club, and I even use signs in my classroom now. that have just helped with distraction, so the kids don't have to raise their hand if they have to go to the bathroom, like they just show me. Given the circumstances, there's nothing that's really going on at our school, but I'm guessing within the next year, I would partake in like being head of a club or something, because I have all that experience from all the different variety of activities I was in.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Sarah. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you again, what do you remember from your very recent senior year at Niagara or throughout the program that you think helped prepare you for your job search?
The biggest thing is definitely getting to know your professors. I've gotten to know a lot of professors in the College of Education program, and those professors write you letters of recommendation. They help you, they give you advice going into applying for jobs. Also in our seminar, you do a seminar class your last semester, and you talk about resumes, you talk about interviewing, you talk about what to wear, what not to wear. You even get your, during student teaching, you get a supervisor, and your supervisor comes into the class that you are teaching in and observes you. So those are all resources that are useful when you become a teacher. I just had my formal observation where the principal of my building came in and observed me, and I felt prepared for it. I was just like, oh, it's just like when my supervisor came in to observe me, but now I'm just on my own. But definitely getting to know your professors, and then the readiness of the career services and College of Education preparing you with your resume, cover letter, where to find jobs, who to reach out to, and then definitely all the opportunities that the College of Education offers you too, because on your resume, you can put when you started being a teaching assistant and all the jobs you did. You can put your student teaching experience. I actually was traveled abroad too, and you can put that. So all those different experiences just to add to your resume to help you get a job.
Great. And I know Dr. Foote likes to talk about this, how many kind of internships our students go to their first job with. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, no, so I had talked about, that students start in their freshman year doing field experiences, and they do them every semester along the way. So our undergraduate students could have actually up to 9 different field experience placements. And they are progressive in nature. So in the earlier semesters, you are observing and maybe working in small groups. The teacher in the classroom is identifying whatever the supports or things that you're going to be doing. So take Lisa over here in the corner and work with her on these math facts kind of thing. You don't have to plan or worry, what am I going to do with them kind of thing. And then you move up in the middle of the program and in your junior year or in your second semester for the grad students. And when you're taking methods courses, you start to plan lessons with that teacher and teach a minimum of 2 full group lessons before you get to your final semester where you're student teaching and you start to take over all of the responsibilities for doing it. And I think that's one of the key aspects, because if you're going to an institution that doesn't put you out there early, what happens is the state requires a minimum of 150 hours before student teaching. And so what that means is they're going to put you out there for weeks at a time in a single classroom. So you might have 1/3 grade out there or grade 3 classroom that you're in for 5 or 6 different weeks, but you haven't tried all the different areas. And because the job market is outstanding right now, you really want to find out where your passion area is. Do I want to do kindergarten? Do I want to do 3rd? Do I want to do 6th? Would I rather do 7th or AP Chem? And because you've progressed along the way and tried these different things out, you will be able to hone in. Do I want to be in an urban school? Do I want to be suburban? Do I want to be private? Do I want to be charter? And then you can work with folks like Stephanie to sort of target, these are the places where I want to apply.
Great, thanks. So we have the student teaching experience kind of as our students' capstone experience, their last semester of their final year at Niagara. The companion piece to that is the student teaching seminar, which Sarah referred to. Dr. Foote's going to talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. Now, Sarah was talking about how we prepared her to go out and get a job and then, you know, be successful in interviews and in face-to-face interactions with supervisors and principals and things like that. So, Chris, I want to ask you what you thought about teacher interviews. They're a little bit different than interviews for another job. How do you think Niagara prepared you to be successful in that unique environment?
Well, I think it was also interesting that I was interviewing throughout COVID. So I remember in teacher interviews, we were talking about, oh my gosh, you have to wear this, you have to wear this. I was in sweatpants and a dress shirt and a tie for my interview, so I was cozy. But besides that, Niagara does an amazing job interviewing. The infamous Dr. Vermette does something related to interviews in most of the courses he teaches. So he has you do an assignment related to what are some common questions. So I think the biggest thing that stood out, and I think because I was interviewing in uncharted water, that I was prepared, but I wasn't prepared, because I remember that when I was student teaching, I had to teach lessons asynchronously for my classes. So I just created Screencastify videos where my students can watch at their own leisure. So that means for high schoolers, they were doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning because they were tired of playing Fortnite. But in my interviews, I had to teach a synchronous lesson online. And that was like a whole new thing. But because I was super secure in my content area, because I had the different instructional supports and strategies that we learn in our methods class, I was prepared for it. But yeah, it is your interview for being a teacher. It's not like applying for a job at the mall, because, you know, you are impacting at least 3 generations worth of people in the community. And so they want to make sure that you would be a good representation of that community. And so they do ask tough questions. And I remember being stumped, but you know what? You have to go in and be confident and use your teacher voice to speak up as you're answering. But Niagara prepares you every step of the way so that you are prepared. And hopefully when you interview, you're not interviewing in a pandemic, so you get back to some normalcy, because, you know, interviewing in a pandemic is very stressful, especially because, one last thing and I'll stop talking. I remember that when I was interviewing, 3 of my schools were going through a budget crisis because they didn't know what the budget of the school was going to be. So they're like, Mr. Rogers, we have our offer papers ready for you, but we don't know if we can pay you what you're supposed to get paid. And so that was a little bit anxious, but that was because of the budget crisis with COVID-19. So I'm sure by 2025, hopefully when y'all go out for jobs, that, you know, you won't be interviewing during a pandemic.
So how many offers did you get?
Right.
I got a lot. So I applied to 13 different school districts. And from those 13, I had 10 interviews. And from those 10 initial interviews, I was called back to 8 districts and I got 4 offers.
And that's even when they didn't know about their budgets or if they were going to have classes or if school was even going to be open.
And that was variety within the different demographics. So I liked it because I was able to write my ticket. And so I knew from my experience as undergrad that, you know, I enjoyed my placements in suburban schools, but I knew that's not where I was needed. That wasn't my calling. And so most of the schools that I got offer letters back were from inner city school districts, which was nice because I had options into being in the community that I wanted to teach in.
Great. And Sarah, how did you do? How did you do in your interviews? Did you interview at a lot of schools? What were your experiences like?
I have to agree with Chris. Interviewing during a pandemic is crazy. I interviewed at the school I student taught at. And then actually my initial offer was at a pre-K. So I ended up working at the pre-K for the entire summer. And then 3 days before school started, I got a call from Orchard Park and they wanted me to interview and they offered me a job. So it was all very last minute, but I could not be happier. I don't know, I never thought of myself as a pre-K teacher, and I did it for this summer, and I'm glad I'm not back there right now. I'm not pre-K at all. But it was like, it's the experience. I had the experience and I had an offer. So it was definitely interesting, difficult, but it's not, as Chris said, it's not like regular job interviews. It's like a 4-step process. So you got to stick with it and just keep going. You got to keep pushing. Don't get frustrated. It will come. Something will come. And yeah, I'm really happy where I am right now.
Great, thanks, Sarah. For our students who don't know this, interviewing for a teaching job is unique in many ways. It's really, it's thorough because these are very important jobs that you're pursuing out in the public, working with students. It's also really comprehensive. There will often be several more than one people interviewing you. So you want to feel confident. I remember my teaching interviews, there were 10 people on one panel. So it's not something that you want to kind of take lightly and get out there and be like, oh, you know, I can take care of this. You want to have some practice and you want to have some good support. And that's why you've asked. One more thing I wanted to mention. We chose Sarah and Chris to talk to you today because they both had really unique experiences. Sarah was working like right out of school. Chris, if I remember correctly, was working while he was still in school at one time. So we want you to understand that there's tons of opportunities out there right now, pre-COVID, during COVID, and certainly post-COVID. And we want to make sure that our students are prepared when all these job opportunities come up to jump out there and get those jobs. So Stephanie, would you like to, I'm not going to lead you too much because you're the expert in this area. You and the Career Services Office do lots of things that support our students and kind of set our Career Services Department apart from many other schools. Can you tell our potential students about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being here tonight. So when it comes to the Career Services Office, at the end of the day, our goal and our mission is to help all of our students to achieve their goals. So as Dr. Foote had mentioned, for some students, it's immediately going into the workforce. And for other students, it's getting into the graduate school of their choice. And for some students, especially in the field of education, it might be both. If you're coming right out of an undergrad program, you might choose to work and do your graduate program. So we really encourage students to start to acclimate themselves with our office early. One of the beauties of our teaching program at NU is that you are in the classroom so much sooner than you would be at other schools. And so you have a lot of material, if you will, to start building that resume and gaining that experience very early on. And so what we find with a lot of our students is, you know, they're going to come in and they're going to start seeing us, say, freshman year. And the questions that we get is, what are some things that I can do to help best prepare me when I get to the end of the road, when I get done with student teaching and I'm going to look for work? And so we're able to work with students from the beginning and say, okay, so you are certified early childhood and childhood. What's your plan for the summer? Have you thought about working at a summer camp? Have you thought about doing any tutoring? You know, what are you doing for part-time work? How does that translate into the field of education? And so we can start having those conversations early, that you're kind of using your resume as your own roadmap, right? You're not waiting until that senior year to say, well, what information am I going to put on my resume? Because by virtue of these programs, you're starting that from day one. And so when the students come in to see us, it's like, okay, how can we help you to tell your story? Because at the end of the day, when we talk about the interview process, it is telling your story. What are the things that you have done that are going to help to demonstrate how amazing you're going to be in the classroom? And I will say that for our students that experienced COVID in the spring and then went out into the world of work immediately, Chris being one of them, right? one of the things that we're hearing from a lot of administrators is, show us how you're resilient. So like, what does your resiliency look like? How creative were you? How did you help your cooperating teachers to go from a model of in-person, which is the one thing that they're probably all the most familiar with, and flip that to this online environment while still engaging the students? And I think that that is like the key piece there. How do we engage the students? And so we've all had to do that at NU as well. And I would say, like, from our office, at first we were like, okay, we really like to meet with students in person. How do we do this? But we figured out that Zoom works and Google Meet works. And then how does that translate to other fields? So it's been great for everybody all around, but it's how do we help prepare students to tell that story? So when we talk about the professional seminar that you take while you're student teaching, our office is involved in that process. So coincidentally, this morning, I was talking to our student teachers that are going out here in the spring for this semester about the job search process and also resume and cover letters. And then either at the midway point or after the second placement, I revisit that seminar, but I moderate a panel with some of our local administrators from some of our local schools. And so they're able to talk about their process. Typically, they have jobs that they're saying, you know, even if it's a long-term sub opportunity, apply now. I'm looking for someone. I love Niagara students. They're always prepared. They make great teachers, all of those things. And then students are able to ask questions to those administrators, learn about those individual districts, but then also, even if that isn't the district that they're interested in, because they're learning about the interview process, which, as Tammy said, is very different. It's not like some other jobs where you may go on one single interview. You know, the first interview is typically a screening interview. And then from there, you move into a panel interview. And then usually along the way, if it's a third interview or part of the panel, you're teaching a lesson. And so at this point, you're very familiar with teaching a lesson because you've gone through student teaching, but it's a little bit different to teach a lesson to perhaps current teachers. In an ideal world, they bring you into a classroom of students that you've never met before, especially if you don't know that school. So I can definitely tell you that the feedback from our students has been they felt prepared to do that. And both Chris and Sarah talked about, you know, that they were ready for the interviews. One of the events that we host in conjunction with other local colleges and universities is called Teacher Recruitment Days. So Teacher Recruitment Days has two components. There is a local component, so we're going to say Western New York. It's actually Erie and Niagara County. And then there is USA. And USA includes all of the districts that are not within Erie and Niagara County, but across the United States, as well as some international opportunities. So in a typical year, it is an in-person event that is held at the Buffalo Convention Center. It is the one single opportunity that students have to meet with people. Probably, usually it's around between the local and the USA side, over 100 different districts that are looking to hire students from this region. So it's a really tremendous opportunity, and it's an interviewing event. And so this year, we are hosting the event, but it is going to be in a virtual format. So students will have an opportunity to interview via video. They'll have an opportunity to chat with these different district representatives. But the reason why we get buy-in from so many different districts is because our students are prepared. And so recruiters from other states come to New York State because they know that our process by which our students have to be certified is much more stringent than it is in other states. And so the feedback that I often receive when they figure out that I'm from Niagara is, Number one, our student teachers know how to dress the part. So Chris talked about that, which you learn in the seminar, and probably even well before that, the conversation comes up. Our students are prepared to answer questions. They can answer questions in a way that goes beyond the surface of what the question is. And then also they just represent themselves well. They're very professional. They represent themselves well, and they represent Niagara University well, which is why they usually track me down to find out who's connected to that school. So, you know, those are ways in which we support students. We're always up for something new. So we rarely say no.
One of the things I was going to ask you, Steph, and I've always been intrigued by is how do you know the questions? How you told me before about getting the interview questions and helping students prep that. So I'm going to lead you into that.
Yeah. So a lot of times when it comes to teacher recruitment days, one of the nice things is that I'm one of the chair people. So I'm the chair of the Erie Niagara district. So I work with all of those employers. And so it gives me an opportunity the day of the event to maybe borrow some of their resources along the way. A lot of times they'll just hand them to me. So I then know these are the types of questions that were asked. And so I can help students when I'm doing practice interviews with them. Also, when it comes to the USA districts, we survey them at the end of the event to find out what are the questions that candidates have struggled with the most, and what are the ones that they felt most prepared for, and what is the advice that those recruiters have for any of the students that are going to be interviewing. And so we take all of that information, we share it amongst, you know, myself and then our colleagues, so we can really help students. It's not a guessing game. We know what the districts are looking for because we have those connections with them.
Great. Thanks so much, Stephanie. I think everyone should be getting a good idea that at Niagara, the greatest asset you will have is that you aren't ever just a number. Not on the first day you step on campus when you make your schedule, not throughout your program when we're helping you and watching everything you do and providing you with individualized support the whole way through. One more thing we didn't touch on that I did want to ask Dr. Foote to talk about, because this is kind of her area of specialty. We have students during the student teaching seminar also work on a kind of a portfolio. That's a great resource for them. That is something unique that we do. Can you tell the students a little bit about that, Dr. Foote?
Sure, I can. I also did want to make a point of the fact that the field experiences, your final field experiences, your student teaching can actually be done closer to home. So I see we have somebody on here from Syracuse. I see we have people from Ontario. And as long as the students have been successful in demonstrating quality progression in their field experiences along the way, you can go to Lackawanna is not even considered away from here. So we have a supervisor down there, and we have supervisors, and Sarah was talking about them, that can work in Syracuse schools. I'm always happy to go to Syracuse too, and who work in the Ontario schools as well. And one of the things that you can look at is that that student teaching experience is really a full-time job interview, because those people and those teachers in that building, when they see how effective you are at doing the work that you're going to do, they're calling the human resources office and saying, hire Sarah right now. We don't want her to get away. You know, my kids were coming home from high school and saying, well, you have to hire Mr. Rogers right now. And I told him that I don't actually get to hire for the Niagara Falls City Schools. But I did call them and say, so I was mad when he left because he was going to stay here and be my kid's Spanish teacher. But the experiences really are your way of making your own network and your own connections with the schools where you're employed. And along with the seminar, along with the student teaching, you have a professional seminar. Sometimes seminar can be called group counseling. So when you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what happened to me in school today. Then you have the other student teachers who say, oh, I believe it, because look, this is what happened to me. And you can think about different ways to address and adjust and you make your way through things. And it really is the progression into being a professional. We call it professional seminar, because before it was Niagara University teaching you how to do something and your field experience is teaching you. But as you go forward, you're always going to have to learn within the profession. And I think Stephanie was saying, when you move from in person to virtual teaching, that was new for all of the teachers, and they needed to consult with each other and support each other. And so professional seminar helps you to be a professional in that way, to know that you have skills and strengths that you can give, and the other people that you work with have skills and strengths. Teaching is not a competitive sport. You don't win if the teacher next door is not teaching as well as you are. So work with each other, kind of thing. But the other things you get out of professional seminars, so Stephanie comes in, and part of the portfolio that you're developing includes your resume, which we take a very tight look at for you. We don't want you going out there with spelling errors on your resume. We want you to have all of your field experiences listed the way they need to look. And we talk to the human resource directors and say, okay, how's your resume look? How do you like them? How do you like them? And we fold that all together to make sure that our students leave with the ones that are exactly what people want. They have their cover letters. They have a philosophy statement that they create. And because you've had all of these experiences and the way you learn, what your philosophy statement really is saying is, this is the kind of teacher I want to be. And these are the things that I want to do with and for children and for the community that I'm going to work in. And we help them to develop that. They develop polished unit plans and lesson plans and case studies with interventions and things like that. And one of the other unique characteristics of the students at Niagara is they all do a community outreach project. So that you're showing, it's more than me spilling knowledge into the children and within my classroom. I'm showing how I'm going to do more or give back. So it can go from chaperoning or fundraising for the school to do this, that, or the other thing, or organizing a coat collection for kids in Syracuse City schools because they need coats, or food drives, or literacy drives, or different things like that. And so we really encourage our students to demonstrate the Vincentian mission of the university and set themselves apart to say, you know, not only can I come in here and teach lessons to kids, but I am going to be a part of this community where I'm going to work. And so they have this tremendous portfolio, which sometimes in the interviews, about 50-50. 50% of the time, the interviewers want to see a portfolio, show me what you've done, let's talk through it. And the other 50% of the time, they just want to speak with you. But what we find is if you've really created a nice, tight portfolio, the process of creating it helps you to be able to speak about it. So even if you don't open up your portfolio and say, here's this, and ours is digital now, so you could actually just send them a link to it. But here's lesson plans that I've created. Here's some pictures of me doing, you know, the soccer team coaching or whatever it is that you did. Even if they don't want to see it, you can communicate it because you've gone through the arduous process of developing it, and you can speak to it like nobody else. And so we find that they're really ready and confident to speak about it as a result of it. And during the seminar sessions, they go through opportunities to present it to each other. And so they build those skills. Right?
Dr. Foote?
Yeah, jump in.
Can I add something?
I miss seeing you guys around here.
So the huge part, and I think this was helpful, like with the COVID-19 interview process, was with the digital portfolio. So like me, I'm very hands-on, and I like having papers, mainly because Dr. Vermette. And so having the digital portfolio, though, like with all that time that I wasn't in the classroom during COVID-19, working and really like fine tuning, really did help. And I remember going in to the interview for my school district with the digital portfolio. Everything was hyperlinked, everything where it brought them to one document, to one video. And I sent it to them an hour before. And when I came in and they said, we just saw your one video of you teaching. And it was just very nice. And so even if you had that digital portfolio, it's really helpful because you can send it hours or days before. So instead of like during the interview, them trying to flip through the binder that you're going in with, they've already had time at their own time to look through, and then they can have questions tailored to what you have in your portfolio, so that because you are the expert in your portfolio, then what that means is that they can just start asking questions about you. And I remember like I sent my one portfolio and they're like, so tell me about dancing. And I'm like, how do you know? And then they're like, you said that you used to go out to, you know, dance halls when you were in Costa Rica. I'm like, oh yeah, I did put that in my portfolio. And so then I was just able to talk about myself, and it just made it super easy and not as like uncomfortable. And then one last thing, with the professional seminar, that also really helps you for like when you go to schools and you like are working in PLCs, because it's giving you the opportunity to know
professional learning community.
Oh, sorry.
You don't know all the lingo yet, Chris.
Professional learning communities, because it gives you like, you know, knowing the professional norms and all that stuff. And so having that practice during student teaching in that professional seminar really allows you to like really be at your best when you get to your PLCs. Because I remember being at my first PLC, I was like so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. And then like we were talking about virtual learning and like different apps. And then I'm like, oh, I do know something about it. And because we were able to have that conversation with student teaching, it really helped me to like know when I can speak up at meetings, because I feel like finding your teacher voice is kind of hard sometimes, especially when you're new into the profession, but the opportunities at Niagara really do help.
So we use this chalk and wire system, but when they use the term chalk, you actually don't think digital, but the system helps you create portfolios, and our students are creating portfolios from their freshman year all the way through the program, and different portfolios along the way. And then you can do individualized portfolios, so that, you know, if you're, you know, Sarah, applying for a pre-K position versus applying for a third grade position, you may want to highlight different things that you have in your library, your own personal library of artifacts. Whereas programs that don't have this digital portfolio opportunity, you are going through papers. You're trying, if you guys remember, you know, if you had to go back to your grade 9 paperwork and try to find your best work for something a long time ago, you wouldn't be able to find those things, but they're all organized and saved that way. And the other thing is, you put them in the, you know, what people are doing when they're not digital is a 3-ring binder, and you bring it to a person-to-person interview, and there's a 10-person panel. They're slowly passing around your portfolio. Whereas if you can do what Chris did, you could actually send 10 people a link all at once, and they're all on whatever page that they want to. And you've just overwhelmed them, and they're in awe of, oh my gosh, this person knows a heck of a lot more about technology than I do. And they want you right then and there.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Foote. So we have probably overwhelmed our guests with a lot of information, and hopefully been able to demonstrate to them the support that we give to our students, not only as they come into the program, but especially as they're finishing up and getting prepared for their very exciting careers. So with that, I would like to open it up to any questions. I haven't seen any in the chat. I've been watching, but I haven't seen any, probably because we're all big talkers. We provide our students with a lot of information. But are there any questions out there that we can answer while we have the panel still assembled?
I actually had a question for Sarah or Chris. Can you guys talk a little bit about your experience student teaching this past semester? You know, again, I'm sure you guys were in person and then having to switch to virtual. If you could just talk a little bit about that, and again, the transition, or even the support you had from your cooperating teacher, et cetera.
Yeah, first, where were you, and how did you experience the transition too?
Sarah, you want to start?
Sure. So I was at Star Point Intermediate, 3rd grade. I'm really just loving 3rd grade this past year. But I had a really great cooperating teacher. We started in person, so it's just like teaching. You go every single day. You slowly transition to start taking over the class. So the teacher teaches, shows you her ways, kind of get a feel for the classroom, and then you slowly start to take over. And then about mid-March, the pandemic hit, and I was supposed to be done at Starpoint and moved to Niagara Falls for a self-contained classroom. And that was not able to be not possible with the pandemic. So I ended up actually staying with Starpoint and my cooperating teacher, and I moved to virtual with the kids. So I had a really great experience because I got to know the kids in person, and then being virtual with them. Me and my cooperating teacher, we still plan lessons. We still posted stuff for the kids. We had Google Meets with them. I usually plan the Google Meets because instead of doing lessons on Google Meet to start, we would just do like activities or games because it was all new for everyone. So just to get the kids on, seeing each other, just so they could talk to each other and get a feel for Google Meets. But I still continue to work through the entire thing. And now teaching, my class ended up being quarantined in October for 2 weeks. So I did have to transition there. And then we got back in the classroom for 3 weeks, and then we had the entire district went remote. But now I'm finally back in the classroom. So definitely a lot of transitioning, but you make it work. There's so many great resources out there for teachers right now, especially virtually. You have so much support. Another teacher of mine was quarantined with me, so we kind of you work together and you just make it work. You gotta do whatever, but student teaching is a great, I love student teaching. It's like you're the teacher. I will say living with education majors is great. It's like therapy, as Dr. Foote said. When you come home, you just vent about your class, anything else you have to say, you talk about your students.
You all have the same bedtime, probably.
We have the same bedtime. We're working on the TPA every night together. Like, it just works out. But it really was a great experience. And it really does prepare you for teaching. I was not worried about teaching at all this year.
I think it was good preparation. Our students showed themselves to be very nimble because there were some moments where no one really knew what was happening. Would New York State let our students keep going? Where were they going to be? You're a perfect example, Sarah. Your plan got changed midway, and our students have been resilient. We've always known that, but we've really seen it in action in the last year for sure. Chris, is there anything you wanted to add about your student teaching experience?
Yeah, so I was in a 17-week placement. And if any of you know me, you know that I'm extremely close with the Niagara Falls City School District. And so it was difficult because we weren't allowed to have synchronous meets in the spring. And so that was quite difficult because I didn't get to see my students' beautiful faces, but we worked through it. I remember dropping off stuff at their houses, and like just trying to do like weekly phone calls with parents. So I really got comfortable with parent phone calls, which is definitely something tough. Like when you're a new teacher, I know like right now at my school district, I went to school with a lot of my students' older siblings. And so they're like, didn't you go to school with my brother? And like the parent is telling me about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to talk about you missed class, not that I'm friends with your sibling. So that definitely was helpful. But then also my teacher was a very old-fashioned teacher. And so she was 26 years deep into her career. So she's like, I'm just on path to retirement. And so when virtual teaching hit, she was like, I don't know what to do. And so I'm very resourceful. So I was able to find different things. I was able to help our department out because how we did things in Niagara Falls was as departments, we came out with work. And so I had a huge part in helping our department with the different assignments we would give for the course. And so that was really helpful because I was able to work with teachers from the middle school and high school all at the same time. But then I think the biggest takeaway from my COVID experience was knowing now this year, me being a synchronous online teacher, knowing how to make lessons asynchronous and synchronous, kind of do both, really like makes me like very flexible So now, like when the students are struggling or anything, I'm like, take your time. I'm flexible because I had to be extremely flexible in the spring. And so that was my biggest takeaway. And then knowing to use your resources, like your cooperating teacher is there. Like I remember I stayed up in Niagara Falls during COVID-19 when it was all happening. And I lost my aunt to COVID in March. And my cooperating teacher and the department, they sent me a whole bunch of like meals, Chipotle gift cards, different things. They were also Niagara alums, so they had that Vincentian spirit, but they were really a second family during COVID while I was up in Western New York. And so while you're developing relationships with your cooperating teachers, they do become not only mentors, but lifelong friends.
Great, thanks. Dr. Foote, anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up here?
No, I did notice that Emily had put up the link for upcoming events, and we have been working very close with Emily to prepare some additional events, you'll see some more of these things coming up. Some opportunities for shadowing days to come in smaller groups and watch and follow around an education major for a day, if that's something that you want to do, or to even, so Tammy, for example, is teaching a class in the spring semester and will be allowing students to perhaps join in virtually just to see and experience what a class is like. Dr. Vermette will also be doing that. You can join in and sit in the hot seat with Dr. Vermette in one of his classes this spring, and we'll get you some more information on that. But we've given you our contact information, so please don't hesitate to join in and ask any additional information. And that's it.
I do want to say hi to Juliana. Hi, Juliana. Juliana is actually joining us in the spring.
Hello.
She's one of our new students.
This was awesome, and I'm very excited to start.
Great. I was excited when I saw your name there. I thought this was a great opportunity.
I know. It answered all my questions, so I'm very excited. Thank you.
Good. I also see Baron Dunbrook. Are you related to Jordan Dunbrook?
Yes, I was privately messaging him. Jordan's a second-year student, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you teach him?
Third year.
Did you have him?
I did, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Is he related to Jordan?
It's his brother.
Oh, awesome. Jordan's one of my favorites, so tell him I said hi. I'm not supposed to say favorites, but.
We can be creepy here.
All righty, thanks everyone. Please let us know if you have any questions and don't hesitate to get in touch.
Thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And thanks so much, Sarah, Chris, Stephanie, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
It was nice to see you guys.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I miss you, Chris.
I'm muted. How's it going?
Good. Oh, good. I can't wait to actually, when things open up and you can drive back up here and see us. But I've been following your posts and stuff on social media. We're so proud.
Yeah, who is it? At the end of February, I'll be fully vaccinated. So
good.
That's exciting.
Wow.
It's just very worrisome. Like, who was it? Our newspaper just posted that we have 328 students who we haven't been able to contact this year since we're fully virtual.
Oh,
it is like so bad. I do weekly check-ins with my students and they constantly tell me, they're like, Mr. Rogers, I just want to be in school. I don't get this. They're like, you're trying to do the best that you can, but I really can't learn a language this way. And I'm just like, it's just so challenging, but we're trying to make the best that we can.
Well, and it's the social emotional part of all of it. Like I'm watching my kids and I'd like to say they're as well adjusted as, teenage kids can be, but I'm watching them just tune out and they're just so done with it. And like could sleep all day and stay up all night, which I know teenagers can do anyway, but I'm starting to get worried. And, and then I'm starting to get worried. What that tells me is that people without the same level of means, they've been worried for a long time. And those kids.
One of the things that I'm always worried about with my students is, yes, that they're tuning out, but then one of the first things, because we were originally going to be hybrid, and I just thought about with a high needs school district, how many students can't escape their abuse?
Oh, right. Oh, I know. I watched my husband in the spring going through that and calling, and like when you can't, you're suspecting something, or you just have no idea, and when they're just, you know, unreachable, and you got to track them down and figure out what's going on, and basically send somebody to go. So Chris, like, their kids didn't need the packets, and it was like we didn't even care if they finished the packet, but I'm like, I got to hand deliver this packet just so I can put eyes on this kid. And
it's not like I can sneak down to the yellow cafeteria in Niagara Falls High School to say, hey, come here, you know, if you haven't been in my class or whatever. And so I'm lucky that I have family in the community where like they follow my cousins on social media, where I'm able to be like, send them a DM. But it's just really tough. And I feel like us teachers are getting overwhelmed with everything because we're being asked to change at a drop of a dime. And
you keep changing. Yeah, you're in, you're out, you're up, you're down.
Because we're completely synchronous, one of the things is that this one teacher's like, I'm just going to keep on doing the same thing that I've done for the last 20 something years. And it's a lot of my students are like telling me this work is too hard. And like teachers aren't thinking about what's developmentally appropriate for our students in these circumstances.
Right. It changes because of the circumstances. You can't just keep pouring it in there.
So like there's
some might not have been good in face-to-face, but they're worse online.
Like, who is it? There's some teachers, they give 3 assignments like a week virtually. They're like, well, this is what I would do in person. I'm like, students don't have anchor charts virtually. They don't have the different like things. So we're doing the best. Yeah. We're doing the best that we can. So.
Well, sounds like you're doing a great job.
Texting Jarrell Mason right now. He just I'm telling him I'm on with you. Do you know Israel
Rosado?
Rosado, yes.
Yeah. Is he in your program now?
He called me today. He just finished his program. He just graduated December. And I don't, I've been after him for years. I'm like, you need to be a teacher, you need to be a teacher.
And his younger brother is in the social studies 5 to 12.
Yeah, he is. I'm like, well, he graduated. Now he's like, what am I going to do? And Jarrell says, hey. But he said, he's not sure he wants to do it. And I said, and he called him, he was basically trying to find out about subbing. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? They would love you as a sub right now. And so I hooked him up with Maria Massaro.
We love Maria.
And she's gonna get him in to do some subbing. And I'm hoping he likes it enough to because he would be
I was hoping to stay up there, but like they weren't being responsive in time, and I'm like, I have bills to pay.
No, and I understand. And for my own selfish reasons, I wanted you here, but what you're saying is having family in the community means that you have tentacles out there, and you would have eventually had that here too. You already sort of did.
I think about my students all the time from Niagara Falls, and like I text Therese all the time, and she's just like, I legit haven't seen that kid. And like, I kind of want to send Cynthia an email saying like, how is this kid doing? Because the one kid who I was really close with was on Cynthia's radar. And so I really want to know how he's doing, because I just read that his older cousin was in the newspaper about getting a basketball scholarship. And he has a very toxic relationship with his older cousin because he gets all the family attention and he doesn't. And so like when I saw that article, everybody's like, yay. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can only imagine what that kid's going through at home right now.
So to hear the whole thing. You're not as good as the Roddy.
I think it was
Lightfoot.
Yeah, he goes to Newport.
Yeah, Roddy. Yeah.
And so like I just
Ohio State,
Cash is his cousin. He was in Mella Husky's 8th grade class with me, and then Teresa's Spanish 2 class with me. So I basically followed him from 8th grade all the way up to 10th grade. And like, I've had like a great relationship with him. I'm super close with his mom. Like his mom still has my number. So I've just the kids who I was always checking in with. I wonder how they're doing now with the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, one of the, I know we weren't able to meet for coffee in October like we had hoped or something because everything. But one of the things I've been working with Jarrell on and a couple of other people on campus is I want to start, and I'm trying to conceptualize it, but it's almost like a NUFTA that is BIPOC and BIPOC ally.
Oh, absolutely.
Folks,
absolutely.
Because I feel like there are additional, one, finally, when we get to recruit students of color into our program, they face additional challenges when they come to Niagara. And so I want in recruitment, but two, a retention and support kind of thing. And one of the things that I think would be helpful is to have an alumni network of people who
are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Are you ready? What my school is starting? We're doing Teachers of Tomorrow. It's a 7 through 12 program where they come to us in 7th grade and they're like, hey, I want to be a teacher. And they're like, okay, who are your teachers you're close with? So I have really good relationships with a lot of the students in the program. They're like, Mr. Rogers. And so basically what happens is I'm following 2 students and I get an $800 bonus, which is nice. So I'm following 2 students from 7th grade all the way to 12th grade. And we're going to have once a month meetings. And basically the goal is to home grow teachers of color in our community. We're trying to find partners for different institutions to say, like, we're trying to create some sort of scholarship or some sort of initiative for these students to come.
Already got your scholarship. I was just talking to Emily about it. And we're good with that. And Bob Murphy's all over that type of a scholarship.
So I feel like I'm not an advisor for the program, but my teacher bestie is. And I feel like they have a partnership with Clarkson because there's a Clarkson campus in Schenectady, but they're trying to find more partnerships. And so I was thinking about, like, what if it would be cool if they do homegrown, this Teachers of Tomorrow program from Schenectady. They get away from Schenectady for a little bit so they can see what urban ed is like from different parts of the state. And so they kind of get adopted into like the NUFTA type thing. And then they come back home like I did. And so it's like full circle. You leave, you learn about the scope of education, and you come back and you support your community.
We could even have them student teach back there too, which is kind of like a bridge into that. But see, what I'm hoping is that alumni, basically, I'm hoping that if you don't mind, I'm going to connect you once I get all my act together to do maybe 1 or 2 a year, just one a semester of kind of a Zoom meeting like this, when new students come in, to be able to say, and I don't even have to, Tricia's going to moderate it for me. I know that I shouldn't necessarily be there, but to say, look, you might feel uncomfortable. I did. Get yourself through the first 6 weeks. It'll be better. And here's the things I did to find my people. And then maybe the second semester talking about networking and jobs. Like, look,
who might be another good person to reach out to about it. I forget her name. I would have to go in my email, but she is a principal at a bilingual school in Rochester. It's a charter school. She's a NUWAP alumna. She graduated in 2000.
Oh, I'm going to know who this is too. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but she is a principal, and one of the things that the reason why she moved me along in the interview process, besides my content ability, was that she's like NUWAP helping NUWAP. And so exactly. She's another good resource to probably reach out to.
And that's what that's what I said. It's going to be, I talk to you, you give me this name, that person gives me that name, and by the time I get through here, I'm going to have this network. So that our current students are going to be able to say, you might not have everything you want right now, but look, here's some people, here's your people. You go out there and you're going to find a place where you're going to feel comfortable, and be able to be supported.
Yeah.
So.
And Tammy, what days do you teach your class this upcoming semester?
Tuesday, Thursday in the late afternoon.
Like 4:30 or something, yeah.
Oh, I don't know if this is something you're interested in, but I'm like the spokesperson in my department for technology because nobody knows how to use technology. So I don't know if this is something you're interested in, maybe doing like a seminar where I show them like a couple different ed apps that are approved in a lot of schools that they can like start being exposed to. I don't know who's in charge of NUFTA because I was going to try to reach out to if NUFTA is still meeting virtually to try to do like a ed.
We're going to have to work on NUFTA. We've had a few hiccups over the last year. But it's actually interesting that you said that about the program at your school, Chris, because not last year, but the year before, I had visited Niagara Falls High School with Dr. Phillips and our NUFTA because we wanted to do the same kind of thing with Niagara Falls, and it kind of, fell apart for whatever reason. But it's definitely on my to-do list, and hopefully.
Yeah, so even if it's not the class, I would love to get a 2 or 3 people together, and so each of you show a couple of apps, and kind of a PLC, but you could learn from them, they could learn from you, but also I'll invite all of our students who want to join to have some sort of.
Well, here's the good thing. We could record that too, because I'm going to have some folks that are fully online for my class. And it's really hard to engage them. 214 is such a kind of a face-to-face.
That's my daily struggle.
Yeah. So having something like that would be wonderful.
My favorite sound on Spotify is the Jeopardy theme song, because when my students don't speak after 45 seconds, I'm like, here's the music. They're like, no. So virtually. But yeah,
I was a lot of fun.
I think it would be a lot of fun, and it's just like, especially like there was this new law that came out in August that like hit our district by storm with technology, because they realized that a lot of big tech was taking advantage of schools during virtual learning, because they're just like, oh, sign up with me, sign up for me, and they were taking the information from schools and then they were selling
it's illegal.
Yeah, and I think it's the EDU. I can't even say that.
I have it too. They teach it in school. It's actually not brand new. It's just the districts all figured. I'm like, oh wait,
Yeah, and so like we have
Niagara Falls knew about it, and they refused to do anything synchronous in the beginning because they were panicked about this law. And now they figured out how to do synchronous, but
yeah. So that's one of the things that like I've had to learn like this year is like what texts are appropriate and inappropriate due to that law. And so like there's just a lot of like, and I go to the ed tech meetings because I'm a nerd to learn about all the different texts. So it's something I'm interested in.
I would love that. I would love that, Chris. If you stay in touch with me, I can definitely, we can work on seeing what day would work for you, and we can build that into the schedule before I finalize my syllabus.
Awesome. All right, and if there's anything else that you need, just let me know. I live by myself. I work by myself. So this socialization's good for me because I stay home all day.
This is my most exciting social event. It's not the men who live in my house and that's it. The dog.
Yeah. Oh, is it? I have a department meeting and we're all excited. They're like, oh, we get to hang out with our people. Because we only see 3 people on our PLC every week. So having a huge department meeting with all 16 foreign language teachers, we're like, yeah.
So
alrighty, have a good night.
I gotta pick a kid up, but I'll see you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
No problem.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.